Welcome to the Relevance Report, where we explore the relevant stories that are shaping our world today. I'm Jesse Roma, your host this week. On today's show, we will address the mayoral election and how it's impacting students. We'll dive into downtown traffic and how residents are affected by roadwork in more ways than one. Then, we head to the MacEwan campus, where we look at how the master plan intends to change the footprint of the campus over the next 25 years. We'll learn about MacEwan's Kiawatston and how it has helped Indigenous students since its opening in 2019. Finally, we'll talk about the Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Village rebuild after a wildfire destroyed critical infrastructure. A new generation of voters are turning to the polls this month in Edmonton. Recently, a mayoral forum hosted by the Students' Association of MacEwan University, or SAMU, helped students understand what issues are at stake in the municipal election. Chanel Montague looks at the importance of civic engagement and why young adults are necessary as active participants in the electoral process.
Hello. My name is Chanel Montague. I will be your host for this week, and today we'll be having a quick chat about the upcoming municipal election on October 20th, but more specifically and more importantly, we're going to be focusing on the Let's Get Downtown Mayoral Forum being hosted here on your very own MacEwan campus on September 26th. During this forum, students have the opportunity to ask 5 mayoral candidates questions about the many visions you have for downtown revitalization and issues that affect our lives as students and young adults. Now, why should you care about this and why is it important? I know you were thinking that. With the first day of classes having just passed a few weeks ago, I can speak for everyone when I say we're overly familiar with the responsibilities of an adult student inside the classroom. But what about our responsibilities when we aren't bound by a syllabus or when our attendance isn't mandatory and isn't 20% of our final grade? What are our responsibilities then? Where do we place our efforts then? We have all at some point been on the receiving end of our commutes doubling in time or having to park 10 minutes away from a school because of ridiculous parking fees, or it's simply being the most convenient option because of downtown zoning plans. But what are we doing to change that? As a young working adult that is also a university student, I sometimes, and by sometimes I do mean like 99% of the time, but that's fine, I admit it, get so caught up in life and assignments and emails and 50 other things that I kind of just let stuff pass me by. Then I'll look around and see so much has changed, and rarely if ever is it in my favor. Seldom does it benefit young people, does it benefit us. We're fortunately or unfortunately responsible for our futures now. I don't know who left us in charge, I don't know who did that, but that's where we are at. But anyways, as I was saying, our futures, young people voting and engaging in forums isn't just about politics, it's about power, visibility, and shaping the community we want to inherit. I'm so tired of my future being left in the hands of old white men that are not taking the bus in rush hour traffic, that are not job hunting, that won't be house shopping in 5 to 10 years, that do not understand the realities of what it is like being a young person, trying to just like get your life situated, trying to live somewhere that you like, that you love, that you want to stay. And I've yet to live a single unique experience in my 22 years, so I know that I'm not the only one feeling this way. Hashtag we're all in this together. As the new voters, we have to do our due diligence to be informed and engaged, so go to the forums, write to your MPs and other elected officials, and for the love of everything that is good and holy and cute, do not be afraid to complain. It is legally, but do not quote me on this, it is legally their responsibility to listen to us moan about everything that is wrong with our city. Like they kind of just, they're in office, they kind of have to listen to us guys. The voter turnout in 2021 was a measly 37.6%. There's absolutely no way that 37% represented the interests of everyone, but they're the only ones that showed up, so only their opinion matters. This is what I mean. Do not be afraid to show up. Do not be afraid to complain. Our engagement helped ensure its policies reflect your needs instead of being decided solely by older demographics or simply those who care enough to show up. So show up, ask hard questions, challenge your candidates, and demand transparency. Make your voice count. Or you guys can never ever complain about anything ever again. I dare you, actually. But anyways, happy civic duty, babes. Have fun, go to the forums.
Traveling downtown on any given day is no easy feat, but in the past few weeks, closure of both the Low-Level Bridge and Wellington Bridge have added an additional obstacle to this already daunting course. Curtis Samogolski navigates the downtown traffic delays and explains how it will continue to impact commuters for months to come.
Traditionally, it is said that there are 2 certainties in life, death and taxes. Of course, one more thing is often forgotten, but never invisible in our city, construction. Access to two pivotal bridges that lead in and out of downtown have been either cut off or limited, all in an effort to rehabilitate and rejuvenate these roadways for the foreseeable future. According to the information from the City of Edmonton's website, the Wellington Bridge, located west of downtown on 102nd Avenue between 130th Street and 132nd Street, has reached the end of its lifespan and requires replacement. Photos provided on the webpage show its concrete materials beginning to crack and deform. This project is expected to be completed in 2026, with vehicles in transit having to use either 142nd Street, 124th Street, Grote Road, or 107th Avenue as viable detours. Meanwhile, southeast of the city center, the low-level bridge on Connors Road is seeing southbound construction this year, with the northbound route set to undergo a similar procedure in 2026. As per the city's website, structures of this caliber are best set to have rehabilitation work done every 25 years. Built in 1900, the northbound bridge last underwent major repairs in 2006, and the southbound bridge, constructed only 50 years after its precursor, was touched upon in 1994. Any northbound traffic is asked to direct themselves towards the James McDonald Bridge. To put it into perspective, my commute has me taking local transit from Sherwood Park, with the route passing by the Capilano and Cloverdale neighborhoods, ultimately ending between Rogers Place and MacEwan University. On a good day, from the transit terminal to campus grounds usually takes between 30 and 40 minutes. Now, an aspect of that route goes past the low-level bridge and onto McDougall Hill on the way to MacEwan. With the low-level bridge project underway, the bus now detours towards the James McDonald Bridge, turning off onto Bellamy Hill Road to enter the city. Since the start of the semester, I've come to find that this alternative route can add anywhere from an additional 5 to even 20 minutes. In hindsight, this is not much of a difference to some, but to others, it may add up in the grand scheme of scheduling. When it comes to Wellington Bridge substitutions, I had one of my instructors tell me and the class that, since they live on the west end of town, it took them an additional 45 minutes to arrive at Allard Hall. That's just about the span of an entire lecture. To think, if they had hit snooze on the alarm clock even once, the resulting email would have been about class cancellation. Ultimately, this impacts not just us, but anyone else working in the downtown and city center. I'm sure many and their friends can attest to this. Still, employers can only accept a given amount of traffic-oriented reasoning before holding the worker accountable. Otherwise, they're better off hoping that the coffee in the break room was to the boss's liking before entering the office. Nevertheless, the best course of action should be to clearly plan ahead and leave the house early for whatever your academic calendar consists of. Oh, I almost forgot. There's one more certainty that I forgot to mention, especially here in Alberta: winter driving. May everyone listening have the best of luck getting to school in December. We're gonna need it.
As the city continues to grow, MacEwan University is not falling behind. With the new School of Business building under construction, MacEwan University is an integral part of the downtown community. But are the development interests taking into account the needs of the MacEwan students? We examine those questions as I discuss how the MacEwan Campus Master Plan intends to change the university's footprint. MacEwan is changing. As the university begins to grow, plans for development are underway. The MacEwan Campus Master Plan outlines the next 25 years of expansion for the school. Created in 2018, this document lays out a strategic vision and set of principles that define the future infrastructure of MacEwan to better assert itself as a community hub within the downtown core. Taking a look at the master plan, we see a conceptual map of the future campus. While no major changes are planned for the existing buildings, besides the Building 10 Parkade, the map illustrates a revitalized view of the campus footing. What are some of the major changes? The most glaring ones would be the addition of 5 new buildings labeled 1A through E, the major rework of the campus landscaping and road infrastructure into green spaces and natural areas, and the complete removal of Building 10 in favor of a university quad. With construction already underway on the new School of Business building, or Building 1E within the master plan, this raises the question of how the university is going to manage the development of these major changes to the campus and accommodate the needs of staff and students during these changes. The removal of the Building 10 Parkade will be a significant hit to those who can only rely on personal vehicles to commute to school, as finding parking downtown can be a nightmare anytime after 9 a.m. The building labeled 1A is seemingly placed over the location of the 111th Street parking lot, right behind Allard Hall, which will only lead to more parking frustrations for commuters. An opportunity stated by the master plan is to, quote, provide alternate commuting transportation modes, and thereby reduce the reliance on single-occupant vehicle parking. But what does this mean for staff and students whose only reliable methods of transportation are personal vehicles? What modes of transportation is the university planning on offering the student body, and will it be enough to accommodate for the displaced drivers who seemingly won't have any way of commuting on their own terms? As MacEwan continues to grow, the challenges the university faces are becoming clearer as well. The School of Business building opening in 2027 is expected to welcome 7,000 new students on campus, with a plan of reaching a student population of around 30,000 people by 2030. With our current student population of around 18,000 people, that is almost doubling the student body within the next 5 years. With such a massive intake of students, MacEwan needs to be prepared to accommodate the needs of its community. While the campus master plan acts as a guiding document for growth, the real developments rely on what the students actually need. There's a building with an unheard story in Edmonton that most people drive past without a second thought. It's abandoned and locked up to the public, but for many Indigenous families, including Keyston Stanley's, it holds something deeper, a silent and dark history. This was the Charles Camsell Hospital, a place where Indigenous children were used as guinea pigs for tuberculosis treatment, kept away from family, and left with scars. One of those patients was Keyston's father, and today he shares his story.
Native hospital in Edmonton where all the Indigenous communities were referred to, and majority of them were children. And I was about 6 or 7 years old at the time. And I grew up on a reserve about 260 kilometers northeast of Edmonton, which is Frog Lake First Nations. So I got sick when I was 6, 7 years old. Just a basic flu, right? And my mother was worried. And we didn't have much for health care. We had a small hospital, and anybody that got sick was sent to Edmonton. My mother got referred to Edmonton to take me to see a doctor, and I never made it home after that for 1 year. Just a basic flu checkup. I had basic flu symptoms. My mother didn't know that I was going to be kept there for a year. They just said, we're going to keep him in for a bit to make sure his fever comes down, and that was basically it. I remember that much. I remember my mom telling me that. I had a fever. And I was part of the tuberculosis program. Basically, we were guinea pigs for tuberculosis pills. Every morning, before breakfast, they'd feed us a handful of pills. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, but a handful of pills. Then again in the afternoon. Then again in the evening at supper time. Not just 3, 4, like I said. This was quite a bit. It was a handful. And there were times where we weren't fed anything for days. And if you are aware of the triangle health chart that is in most programs now, you'll see what a kid is allotted to live a healthy lifestyle. So that study came from Indigenous children. And I was part of that. And then there was a lot of torture that happened there. I remember there's a lot of sexual abuse that happened to me as a child there. I remember my mother coming to visit me for whatever she can afford to come. And there was no transportation, so she had to take a bus. And this went on for about a year. And my mother tried very, very hard to take me home. And she couldn't. Doctors refused. I remember that hospital very well. The 4th floor I'll never get it out of my head. I think after a year, my mother forcefully took me out of there and snuck me out. And the security tried to stop my mom. My uncle got involved physically, threw me in the car in hospital gear, and brought me home. So if you ever have a chance to take a look at or Google Indian Hospital, Charles Camsell, Google it. A lot of children died there, never made it home. A lot of physical, sexual abuse. I endured both of those. I remember being in a caged room, being drugged up to go to bed. And if I cried too much, they would come in with a needle and put me to sleep that way. So it was a very dark time of my childhood. So I share the story with my son because it needs to be told. But there's a dark history for my people. Medical-wise, that's what Charles Camsell Hospital was. And open your eyes a little bit, listen, and maybe do some research on that hospital, because it is a dark history.
Next, we go to the Ukrainian Heritage Village. The open-air museum east of Edmonton suffered a devastating loss of critical infrastructure earlier this year when wildfires swept through its grounds. In the aftermath, what emerged was not just survival, but the true strength of the community. Here's Kimberly Gargis with more.
On April 18th of this year, a wildfire swept across the Ukrainian Heritage Village, an open-air museum east of Edmonton that tells the story of early Ukrainian settlement in Alberta. When the smoke cleared, the damage was staggering. The visitor center was gone. Offices, archives, artifacts, exhibits, the gift shop, even the donor wall, all reduced to ash. For staff and volunteers, it wasn't just a building. It was the village's front door, the place where school buses unloaded excited children, where visitors got their first glimpse of history, and where community events began and ended. But in the middle of that devastation, there was relief. Not a single historical building was lost. The homesteads, churches, and landmarks that embody the spirit of early settlement still stand, and with them, the village's heartbeat remains. The sound of children laughing at summer camp, the smell of bread baking in clay ovens, the stories told by interpreters in traditional dress, these are the things that make the village more than a museum. They make it a living memory. Even though the visitor center was destroyed, the fire lit something else: resilience. Within days, the Friends of the Ukrainian Village Society, a registered charity that supports the village's programs, events, and historical interpretation, began mobilizing. Ukrainian bilingual schools, art clubs, local councils, and cultural groups stepped forward to help. Appearances at festivals like U-Fest, K-Days raised awareness. Neighboring small towns organized their own fundraisers. The Alberta government partnered with the Friends Society on a crowdfunding campaign that quickly surpassed its goal of $10,000, and the ATB Community Foundation is currently doubling every dollar raised during its campaign this fall. The message is clear: it takes a community to raise a village. This year was meant to mark the village's 50th anniversary. What should have been a year of celebration has become a test of survival. And yet, what better way to honor 50 years of preserving the past than by living out the values the village represents: perseverance, community, and hope. Still, there is more to look forward to in the future. Next year, a time capsule sealed back in 2000 will be opened. Inside are photographs, recipes, letters, and mementos meant for future generations. When it was buried, it was a gesture of hope for what the future might hold. Today, it feels like something more, a bridge across time, a reminder that even through hardship, heritage endures. So yes, the anniversary celebrations have been cancelled, but in their place, something unexpected has risen. A living demonstration of resilience and generosity. Like a phoenix, the Ukrainian Heritage Village is rising from the ashes, not in silence, but to the sound of voices. Voices carrying forward the courage of the past, the strength of the present, and the hope for the future.
Thank you for joining us for the Relevance Report. This week's episode was produced by Jesse Roma, Kimberly Gargis, Curtis Samogalski, Shneil Montague, and Keiston Stanley. The show was edited by Kimberly Gargis. The show's supervising producer is Sheena Rossiter. Additional supervision provided by Sasha Stanoevich. This episode was produced as part of the BCSC 206 Introduction to Audio and Video course in the fall 2025 semester. The course is part of the Bachelor of Communication Studies program in the Department of Communications at MacEwan University. The show was edited and produced out of the MacEwan Media Production Studio. Our theme music is called Buzzing by Kaylee Lambert. Additional music for this podcast is provided by Pixabay, with tracks including Inquiring Discovery by Musictown, I Loved It by 99 BPM Studios, Hopeful Cinematic by Sonican, and Last Minutes by Sergei Pavkin Music. Logo design for this podcast is by Sasha Stanoevich. And I'm Jesse Roma, your host for this week's episode of The Relevance Report. This podcast was recorded on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nations of Alberta, Districts 9, 10, and 11, within the historical North Saskatchewan River Territory. Don't forget to subscribe to the Relevance Report on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review and a rating. It really helps people find the show. Please join us again next week when we report the relevant stories that are shaping our world. Thank you.